Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by FPL expert FPLSalah to preview Game Week 31. And there is one big question, Abdul. Will FPLSalah be getting the real Mohamed Salah back in his fantasy team this week? Don't tell us yet, but just give us a little insight.
Well, the short answer is I might be.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
it's not been decided yet, but it's very tempting.
Okay, you know what we'll do? We'll bring up your team on screen just so
Yeah.
people have an idea of what your team is. And it's a weird
Mhm.
team, right? Obviously, you free hit last week.
Mhm.
And now the team is it looks fine, but there are some players in there that you just wouldn't expect to see in teams anymore. The likes of Hwang, for example, still
Yeah.
just chilling there. But you have 4.6 million in the bank, which is why you do have a lot of kind of you've got a lot to play with here, and it's going to be interesting to see what you're thinking. So go for it. What are your thoughts currently with your team?
Yeah, so at the moment, like I know I've got a 3 Arsenal, so I've got double Arsenal defense against City, which isn't ideal. However, I am looking at a defender transfer this week,
Okay.
so I can bench Saliba. The initial plan was like before this week. I had planned in. This is before the doubles were announced.
Mm.
I'd planned Doughty to Gusto and Foden to Salah, and I could afford that. But because of Salah's price rise, annoyingly, I'm not able to do that move anymore.
Ah.
Um, so, I've got options there. I could do Doughty to Connor Bradley, and Foden to Salah, but then obviously I'm gonna have to really kind of keep an eye on the situation with Trent Alexander-Arnold. If he's going to be back game week 31, 32, then I'm not going to make that move. But if he's had a setback, then I could definitely do that. But also, what I could also do is do Hee-Chan to Sarabia, who's only 4.7 million. And Hee-Chan, I mean, I kept Hee-Chan, I kept Hwang because when I decided to keep him instead of Charlison, it didn't look like he was going to be out for so long, but he is
Yeah.
going to be out until at least game week 34. Don't think I'd take that risk of holding him. So Sarabia looks like a great option with Hwang out. He's played 90 minutes in the last few games. Possibly could be on penalties as well, and then that allows me to do Foden to Salah as well. So that's kind of a few options I've got. Either make a defender transfer down to cheap, and bring in Salah for Foden this week, or do the Sarabia move, Hwang to Sarabia and then Foden to Salah. Or the other option is just to save a transfer. And
Wow.
then just kind of go with the double Arsenal defence. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that that game could finish 0-0, 1-0 to
Yeah.
Arsenal, and then make the and then get in Salah for Sheffield United. So that's kind of the three kind of provisional options I'm looking at the moment.
Okay, that's very interesting. I think for someone like me who can't really get to Salah this week, it would have to be probably for like a -8, really, unless I was
Yeah,
sacrificing a lot in my team. Because you have 4.6 million in the bank, which is allowing you to be able to get there in two
yeah.
moves and then not be really compromising moves. It's got to be tempting to get him in. It's a great fixture. What do you think about captaincy this week? Because I think that will play a lot into people's decision making, whether you want to go for Son or Salah, or who you think is the better option. I think is going to be massive in determining
Yeah.
the transfers.
Yeah, I mean, look, even like I'd say Salah, it's close, but Salah probably is the better option, I would say, marginally at the moment, right? But even then, it doesn't merit taking a hit to bring him in and captain him when you've got a Son there who's got Luton. So it
Mm.
just really depends on, because I'm going to be bringing in Salah this week or next week.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. So I'm just wondering whether to do that move this week, because then next week I'll be looking to bring in Darwin for Watkins. So then Salah will be so a hit is going to be taken, regardless in the next few weeks, and building up to game week 34 when Liverpool have got a double as well. I guess you could say, look, City have got Arsenal at home, which is their hardest fixture of the season. I mean, especially when you look at Arsenal defensive numbers. So if there
Yeah.
is a time to get rid of Foden for a hit, it's probably this week. And I know a lot of managers will be wildcarding this week as well, and will be bringing in Salah. And a lot of guys will be bringing in Salah in the free transfers as well. So his ownership is going to be really high.
Yeah.
And looking at the captain polls so far, it does seem like Salah is going to be the most captain. So he is going to be a big risk to. I mean, see, 2 weeks ago, I didn't think Salah was going to be that popular this week. I didn't think he was going to
Yeah.
be that detrimental to the rank. But seeing the results now, it does look like he's going to be highly owned.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I was happy not to have or not to be able to get to him in two moves, and I was like, oh, I'll wait till 31. It's because like you, I thought, Yeah, he might be back, but we won't be
Yeah,
assured of his minutes yet. And he's not going to, if I'm not going to captain him because we have Son there who's a great captaincy option on
yeah,
paper, then I don't need to force that. But now looking at it, yeah, I agree with you. I think he is the best captain. The predicted points on the hub are close. I mean, they couldn't be closer. Haaland, Salah, and Son all predicted to score 7.4 points. So I guess that's just it ultimately comes to personal preference.
yeah.
One thing that
Really.
is interesting is that your all your moves you're saying here, you're keeping Son, right?
Yeah. So I mean, look, the reason I'm keeping Son is because of that. The double and well, no, sorry, Son will go eventually, but the reason I'm keeping Son is because, for example, this week for sure, right? He's got Luton,
Yeah,
and then West Ham and Nottingham Forest. I think are great fixtures. And then he'll probably go in. And Newcastle away is a good fixture as well. So I prefer to have Son there over Foden. If I was in a position where I had to take a -8 to get Salah for Foden, I'd probably just move Son along instead of that. But I'm in a
yeah,
position where I've got the money in the bank, so I might as well keep the asset. Who in my opinion is better, and then Son will probably go in 34 for Eze or a double game week player anyway, then get them back in the wild card. But I think holding Son over Foden over this period, I think is going to be beneficial for me, because I think a lot of people will be getting rid of Son because they can't afford to get rid of Foden for Salah. And just with City's kind of fixture run coming up at the moment, I don't see him. I see him getting rested in a few of these games coming up. Put it that way. They've got Champions League. There's a midweek game as well. Game week 31. So
yeah.
I'm happy to. I'm happy that I can keep Son over Foden.
I think that's a massive point. It doesn't show here. I've got Ben Crellin's fixture sheet up, which
Yeah.
doesn't include this one doesn't include the midweek games. But yeah, obviously City's still in quite a few competitions, and
Mhm.
well, Tottenham are not in any apart from the Prem, and you know that obviously Son is going to be playing pretty much 90s in the majority of games or close to it if he's fit. So yeah, they are pretty good fixtures because I'm going to have to sell probably. I think a lot of people are as well to be able to get to Salah in Game Week 31. And West Ham away, Forest at home, Newcastle away. I mean, that is a pretty good run. And I think it does trump Foden's fixtures when you factor in the rotation of that. It's a close one, but yeah, from your
Yeah.
perspective, I understand why you'd keep him for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think, for me, that Luton game is just before the Champions League, right? It's before the Champions League fixtures.
Right, okay.
Or after. So that could be a game where, it looks great on paper, but it could be
The
a game that gets.
City game in 33. Is that what
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
City game in 33. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. So that could be a game which he gets rested in. So yeah, I mean, I just think even like, kind of man, like, kind of pound for pound, I think, you'd rather have Son there over Foden, I think. I mean, Foden's a great asset. He's been fantastic this season. I'm not saying he's not a good asset, but Son's got penalties. He's playing as number 9 at the moment. I know that probably will change once Richarlison's back in the starting lineup. He's got a much higher goal threat than Foden,
Okay.
and over this kind of a 4 game period, price doesn't really come into consideration when I'm looking to use my wild card in game week 35.
Yeah. Okay. So I presume you're like a lot of us, like me, dead ending into 34 really, and looking to wildcard as you just said out of it at
Yeah,
35.
yeah,
We won't worry as much about the wildcard because that will come down the line. But for 34, I think as you've already mentioned, the players that you're potentially looking at, the budget players, are players that are doubling in 34, right? You mentioned Sarabia, you mentioned a potential double game week defender in Bradley. It's obviously quite a way out from that week now, but in terms of just for people that are looking at players like that they may not need until 34, but then on 34 are looking to play, what other options do you think there are for kind of budget defenders and then cheaper sort of midfielders, or are you really only looking at sort of like Sarabia and then Bradley as well?
yeah. So I have looked at quite a few, budget players, and there's quite a few good ones there. I think Eight Nuri is great for Wolves. I think that the Munoz for Crystal Palace, he's very attacking, and Palace, in my opinion, have got the best double in game week 34 after Arsenal and Liverpool. I do like the 2 home fixtures there against West Ham and Newcastle. So the defenders, I think, budget wise, the budget defenders, I think we've got quite a good option there, for the doubles coming up. And then, you've even got likes of like, Gusto, who haven't got a double in 34, but, there's fixtures like leading up to game week 34. And then, Chelsea got 2 double game weeks coming up. It could be worth going with him over
Mm,
over the likes of an Eight Nuri or over the likes of a Crystal Palace defender is something I've been thinking of as well. But there are budget options there in defence, and yeah, I'm not sure which one I'll go for yet. If I do make that move this week, with the defender, taking Doughty out, then I'll likely go for like either a Gusto or a Palace defender. Because
okay.
even if I go for Gusto, I could still get up to like 10 double game week players for game week 34, and that'll just be with the -4, which will be for Mo Salah.
I think that is a really good point that you're making there. Is that, yeah, in 34, sure, the majority of teams have one fixture and then some teams have two. But if you look
Mm.
at it from like where we are now, then it's 5 versus 6 fixtures. It's a much much
Yeah,
less of a difference comparatively. So if you do need this defender to come in and play like a Gusto would in three,
yeah.
well, maybe even all four of those games, they're very good. They're good fixtures.
Mhm.
Then is it worth like playing someone that's a little bit more suboptimal and then benching, for example, an Eight Nuri just because they play twice, and then playing them in 34? Will you get more points doing it that way than just getting the Gusto in and playing him throughout all the fixtures, and then if you want to bench him against Arsenal away, and when it comes to, well,
Yeah.
I presume you would
Yeah, I mean,
bench
look,
him.
it depends who your defenders are
Yeah,
and what kind of rotation you're playing. Um, we say every week, but team dependent.
yeah, absolutely. I think that, and then that brings
You
us
know?
on to midfielders, because I think that's a player that not many people are talking about because he doesn't have a double in 34. But I think he's a really good budget option. Is Garnacho in 34?
Yeah.
Just 'cause he's just got such a good single fixture. Do you want to go for someone like a Sarabia over a Garnacho? And you're probably not going to play them until you get to 34, really. I mean, we have a lot of us have extremely strong front eights, and there
Yeah.
might not be space for that budget midfielder. So in a one-off week where it's Sheffield United at home or for Wolves, Arsenal, and Bournemouth at home, I don't know. I think that's potentially close. And then if you wanted to play someone like a Garnacho earlier, say 33 Bournemouth away, that would be better, I think, than a Sarabia in his fixture. I don't know. Do you think sometimes it's better just to go with like the single game week player?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to look at. I think it depends, right? I think Garnacho's been great, right? But I don't think he kind of merits, having that kind of status of, playing him over a
Sure.
double game week player. I mean, if it was a Salah or a Foden or one of these types of premium players like a Son, then you'd probably think about it. But I would definitely take the gamble
Okay.
of a double game week player over Garnacho. I mean, Garnacho's a great shout, especially looking at his price. And if you've already got Garnacho there, then he's a perfectly fine pick. But yeah, instead of Garnacho, I would like take my chances on a double game week player. I mean, even looking at game week 34, I think the only single game week player I'll have will be Haaland.
Yeah.
And I might even bench a double game week player that week as well in Zabarnia.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Any other potential cheaper midfielders that you've got on your mind around that sort of similar Sarabia Garnacho price range?
For this week or for like
No,
coming
well,
to game week
forget it. Yeah,
34?
potentially for 34. If people don't want to go Sarabia, for example, but they need the money anyway, and then they're looking for a player that will double in 34, I
I
think the
mean,
defenders are more defenders, but under that sort of like 5.5 range, there's not too many midfielders.
yeah, I mean, look, Eze is 6 million, right?
Yeah.
I think if Elise is back by then, right, he's 5.6.
Okay.
So I mean, if Elise is back, he could potentially be, that kind of the that cash cow to kind of get you up to Salah if you wanted. But yeah, Salah is I think they're going to be, great options, for that double. I think for Wolves it'll be Sarabia. I don't see, like, obviously with Liverpool and Arsenal, we know who their best assets are, but then I don't see any other kind of midfielders there. And for Bournemouth, Sheffield United, I mean the other kind of teams don't really excite me. Everton, there's not really many attacking options for them. It's more like for Everton, you're probably looking at a Pickford or
Mm,
a Brentford. But yeah, I think for me it's for game week 34, it's got to be Liverpool, Arsenal, and Palace. And Palace seem to have the good budget options. In defence, they've got Mateta up front as well. He's
yeah.
4.9 million. He's a great option. It's just, again, it kind of depends on your team. I could possibly take out Solanke for him when it comes to game week 34.
Ooh. Okay. Okay. Very interesting stuff. Final question on your team lineup for this week is just the goalkeepers. Who are you thinking of starting there?
This week
Yeah.
will be for sure Neto.
Really? So are you going to double up on the Bournemouth defense?
Yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna go for, like I'm gonna go for the clean sheet odds, and this thing. I mean, if I think if the clean sheet odds were, I think it's because it's Newcastle, right, and they've been really bad
Yeah.
defensively. If it was maybe like a better defensive team there, I'd probably hedge it. But I think it's definitely worth it. I think I think Everton have got the better clean sheet chance. Sorry, Bournemouth have got the
Yeah.
better clean sheet chance against Everton, but with Neto as well, he makes a lot of saves, so it's not really like it's. I think he's got a better chance of making those saves, even if he concedes, and he's probably going to score more points than Dubravka. So yeah, I'm on the double up at the moment.
Okay, my friend, let's end things with your AI recommended transfers. They are on screen. Now, caveat here is that the Fantasy Football Hub will never recommend that you take a hit. So if you are looking for a hit, one thing you can do is go in here, click custom transfers, add a filter, number of transfers, and then set the exact number of transfers you want to make. So if you're sure you're going to take a hit, or if you're going to go for a -8 or something, you can do this here. For now, let's just have a look at what it recommends, just flat to Abdul. Now, interestingly, the recommendation is actually to bank, as you mentioned earlier, which seems a bit crazy looking at your team personally, but maybe that just shows that you don't have to force Salah this week. Perhaps the rest of your team is looking good anyway. You have a good captain option in either Son or Haaland, and the defense isn't that bad because the alternative is to sell Saka for Salah. I think that's getting ready for Salah just to come in and just be great this week as well. So I don't know what you think about that. I'm not sure about selling Saka, but for free, that is how you do it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. And I think obviously the City fixture is probably what was prompting that, but
Yeah.
I think with Saka, I think they've got Luton next with in game week 31, then Brighton and Villa. So yeah, I wouldn't be making that move. Although in isolation, Salah is the better option than Saka, but I'd rather have them both rather than just the one. So can understand why he's probably making that move this week, and also the saving as well. I think it kind of makes sense because I think you're going to be losing a bit of some points this week, but 2 free transfers in 31 to get Salah, and kind of fix up the rest of that team as well. And Dowie and He-Chan is probably looking like a good shout as well. But yeah, I guess it might even rate the Arsenal defense quite highly as well, just due to the defensive numbers.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I mean, obviously this does just go on numbers and stats, and as you said at the top of the video, would you be that surprised if Arsenal did win 1-0? Honestly, at this stage in that team's journey, honestly, no, because they have the best defense by a mile in the league. So yeah, it would be a little bit surprising, but I wouldn't be shocked. That is the truth. Okay, yeah. So interesting options which you wouldn't think of, a bit outside the box. I would never think to bank with your team. You said it yourself, and that is what the AI is recommending. So that is interesting, I will say. Selling Saka, not too sure about, but if you want to force Salah this week for free, that is the best way. Otherwise, you have to sell Son, who has a great fixture. So that I think is the logic behind that. Okay, my friend, thank you very much for your tips and advice. Really interested to see what you end up doing. I didn't ask you exactly what you're going to do because I think it could change, right? You said you had those 3 paths. We'll have to wait and see.
It's really up in the air at the moment, but as usual, the final team will be on the Fantasy Football website.
Link down below, guys. As always, enjoy. I want to see what you end up doing. FPLSalah. There we go. Thank you very much. See you on the next one, guys.
Thanks, guys.